4 divisions, 4 hosts, all battling it out for the Holy Grail of the American Hockey League, the Calder Cup. This is the Holy Grail Podcast with Andrew Rinaldi, Deana Weinheimer, Jeremy Paul, Michael Liu, and Zack Power.
Well, hello and welcome back. This is episode 31 of Field Pass Hockey's AHL podcast, The Holy GrAHL. And we are in the thick of Calder Cup playoff action. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about, so we're just going to try to get into that as quickly as possible. But of course, we are here to talk about the American Hockey League and their yearly race to their Holy Grail, the Calder Cup. And just in case you're new or you need a refresher, we actually have all 5 of us here on the show today. So talk about a special treat. We're going to go ahead and go around the screen and introduce ourselves to anyone who may be new. And you know what? I'm a stickler for tradition, so let's just go ahead. And for old time's sake, we're going to go in alphabetical order. Andrew, you're up.
The A starts us off. So for those just joining and those who need, a bit of a refresher, I'm Andrew Rinaldi. I covered beat for Chicago Wolves and when they're in season, the Grand Rapids Griffins for us here at Field Pass Hockey. And right, we're in the thick of it. It's my first time covering a postseason run, and I'm just getting all jittery with excitement about it. I can't wait for more.
And I'm Deana Weinheimer, your one of your 2 AHL editors. And like Andrew said, whenever they are in season and actually playing, I am your Cleveland Monsters beat writer. And I am so ready to talk about some amazing playoff hockey that's been going on here the last week or so.
Yeah, and what's up, everyone? My name is Jeremy Paul. I'm the guy you come to when you want to learn how to spell R2 Ruotsalainen. And that's me. I'm that guy covering beat for the Rochester Americans. So it's been a lot of fun for the last couple of weeks for me. So really looking forward to diving on into this Calder Cup action that we've got today.
Unlike Jeremy, I'm not having a lot of fun. My name is Michael. I just wrapped up wrapped up the first season of Abbotsford Canucks coverage on FPH. Unfortunately, they got swept in the opening round. That's pretty much it. So, I mean, hey, decent inaugural season, but they lost to Bakersfield, of all teams.
And I'm Zack Power in my 3rd season writing here for Field Pass Hockey. I'm here to watch all of the pain and suffering in the Calder Cup playoffs this year, and there's plenty of it.
Zack and I are kind of in the same boat. We said it in the first episode of playoff coverage, but beatless teams, woo, yay! All right, but let's go ahead and talk about some news that has been that came down earlier on Wednesday, and that is some massive changes to the coaching out in San Jose. So the Sharks have named John McCarthy as their new head coach for the AHL affiliate San Jose Barracuda. Meanwhile, Roy Summer has been named a senior advisor for the club. McCarthy, who is 35 years old, has spent the last 2 seasons as a development coach for the Barracuda, spending part of the 2019-20 season as an assistant after he retired from his playing days. While playing, he skated in 577 career regular season AHL games over 11 professional seasons. All but 25 of those were with the Sharks' AHL affiliates in San Jose and Worcester. He totaled 130 goals, 167 assists, which for those who can't add that up, that's 297 points in the American Hockey League, and is actually the Barracuda's all-time leader in games played with 275, goals at 62, assists at 76, and points at 138. Of course, McCarthy serving as captain of the AHL affiliate in 2012 and 2013, and then again from 2016 to 2019, and also won the AHL's Fred T. Hunt Memorial Award in the 2019-20 season for sportsmanship, determination, and dedication to hockey. Also announced were some additional changes, including assistant coach Johnny Bonneau, who has been reassigned to his former role as a professional scout. Assistant coach Michael Chiasson has accepted a position as an agent with CAA Hockey, working with Pat Brisson, plus goaltending coach Danny Saborn will not be returning to the Barracuda and instead has decided to return closer to home back in Quebec.
Do you think he enjoys being a part of that organization?
No. Yes, of course.
10 seasons, all with the Sharks. I mean, you just listed all of his accomplishments, leading in just about every category. And a little bit of trivia: those 25 games that weren't with the Sharks were with the Chicago Wolves. So hey, more former Wolves out there doing great things in life. So excited for them. Just great opportunity, and I'd love to see them pull this Barracuda team out of that putrid basement they've spent all year in.
If there was a team that needed a culture change or a culture shift, it was the Barracuda, and I think they're getting that with pretty much a complete overhaul of their entire coaching staff. You have assistant coaches, head coaches, goaltending coaches, all leaving. It's a top to bottom change, and honestly, it's really needed. They've been, in one word, awful this year. Not to mince words, but it's pretty disheartening to see the Barracuda be as poor as they were this season. So, hoping for bigger and better things with a club legend at the helm.
Yeah,
and I mean,
we don't
you
want
look
to see anyone lose their jobs or anything, but it's hard to look at the season they had and say, okay, let's run it back. So,
and for me, I kind of look at their head coach too in summer, because it's been a tough tenure that he's had in the AHL, even, right? When you go back, even looking at his Cleveland Baron days, which was before Worcester and all that sort of good stuff. San Jose has never really had the greatest development system for their teams, whether it be in Worcester or with the Barracuda. I mean, so it's kind of tough to coach that way, but they haven't really had any sort of playoff success. So it's kind of something that needs maybe a new cleanse and head into a season, because God, it was a terrible season for them, and arguably one of their worst that they've had, but they've had some pretty tough seasons.
And that's the thing too, right? Like, what a challenging situation. Normally you would see a head coach walk into a situation after the season the Barracuda just had, and you think, well, hey, the bar is on the floor. Like, if you're looking to find yourself in good graces of a fan base, it's like lift them up just even from the lowest of low, even just a little bit, and it's a win. But I mean, with everything that is happening in terms of the franchise above them in San Jose, a team that has never really ever subscribed to the rebuild, who has never really been keen to establishing a strong prospect pool at the AHL level, it's going to be challenging. And it's not to say that it can't be done, right? I mean, we've seen plenty of teams at the AHL level find success through grizzled veterans who have, cut their teeth in the AHL. But at the same time, not exactly an ideal situation. There are worse places in the world to play hockey than San Jose, so perhaps they'll find a way to be impactful in the free agent market, specifically with some one-way AHL deals this summer. But man, it's just not an ideal situation to be in. It's just not a great time out there in San Jose.
Well, I guess you can say there's only one way, and that's up for the Barracuda, because they finished 31 out of 31 teams in the American Hockey League this season. In 68 games played, they were 20, 42, 4-2 with 202 goals for and 291 goals against. They finished the season on an 0-13-2-0 streak.
I will say they could fall to 32nd. Like, they could actually go down from here. They could technically go down.
If Coachella decides to become Vegas in their expansion season.
As long as they're Vegas and not Seattle, I think they'll be okay.
Yes.
But aren't they actually technically Seattle, though?
They are.
Seattle's affiliate. That's actually probably not good news for them. But
yeah,
The watered
Crazier
down Charlie
things.
Checkers.
Oh, it's going to be interesting next season. We'll just put that out there. And that's actually a nice segue into this next point. So this isn't actually news yet. It's speculation, it's sources. So Tony Androkidis with Inside AHL Hockey actually broke some potential news on the 15th, saying that per AHL sources, the expectation is that the Calgary Flames will be relocating their AHL franchise from Stockton and moving it closer to their home for this next season, the 2022-23 season. Now, there hasn't been anything that I have found that's actually official as of, let's see, it's about a quarter till 8 p.m. on Wednesday, the 18th. But yeah, that could totally change a lot from how the Pacific Division looks, how the Flames and the Stockton Heat actually operate as a franchise because they'll have their players closer. It's just a really fascinating storyline to watch unfold this summer, I think.
So
And
there's been a couple of. Oh, go ahead, Zach.
I was just talking about, I think that there's kind of been a shift in sort of the game up here, and I think that the AHL is starting to look at how they can invest in the North. Before, like, Alberta has had AHL teams before. They had the Edmonton Roadrunners every bit of 15, 17 years ago, and so that was kind of a franchise there. But Calgary is such a huge hockey market. Even out west, the WHL is doing really good for themselves. Now, having a third team in there is going to water it down a little bit, yeah, but that's kind of one thing, that a lot of these teams are kind of gradually moving their clubs closer and closer to home base. So when they need those call-ups, they don't have to go through border crossings and all that good stuff.
You look at what the team did last year during the madness of, the COVID protocols and everything. It was probably a bit of a wake-up call at saying, hey, this is a lot easier to have your affiliate kind of in the same building or just down the road or anything than in another country. So I get what they're trying to do here, and I don't know if it's going to be a larger shift for other affiliates to kind of bring their farm clubs a little closer to home. But I mean, it's all good news for Calgary. If this is actually, we don't know if it's a sure thing yet, but it's fun to talk about.
Yeah, like I think I could speak to the becoming closer to home point. The Vancouver Canucks affiliate had spent its entire they had the partnership with the Utica Comets, and that's that's what 5-hour flight. So oftentimes call-ups couldn't even get in time, and you come into this season where the affiliate has been moved to Abbotsford. It's a 1 hour drive from Vancouver, 1.5 hour drive, sometimes 2 with traffic. But it's allowed for emergency recalls to be like almost instantaneous, where you can see like the Sheldon Rempel, Sheldon Dries, they can show up for practice in the morning, and then all of a sudden they can just get reassigned to Abbotsford and they can play in the night's game. So there's a lot of advantages to pulling it closer. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in Calgary as well. There has been things thrown around, like Boise has a hockey rink that could possibly host an AHL team. Salt Lake City, we know how there's a hockey market there that hasn't been tapped into. That could also be an option. So it might not just be limited to Calgary. It might be a bunch of cities just closer than Stockton is to Calgary.
Yeah, I see that a lot covering the Marlies. But, for me, I kind of look at Stockton where, some markets take to these team changes, whether you're changing your affiliates or you're going up a league, down a league. And you see a lot of times that some markets just don't. They get so devoted, because Stockton had the ECHL franchise before they had the AHL. That was kind of their foot in the water. But now when you're averaging 1,600 fans a game in the AHL, it's not really viable either. You're not making a whole lot of money off of that game compared to where you could have upwards of 3,000 plus per game on average. So it sucks that some markets just don't take and others do.
It's also not the first time that the Heat organization has had to deal with that. They used to be the Abbotsford Heat, and towards the end of their existence, they were barely getting triple. They couldn't scrape 4 figures in attendance. Nobody wanted to see the Flames prospects play. It's it's one of those where this organization is definitely no stranger to this. So I think they're probably the best equipped to navigate something like the situations they find themselves in.
Yeah, and kudos to whoever it was on this panel that had this hot take a few months ago that AHL teams would move to align more closely with their Deana. I couldn't remember who it was, and I wasn't gonna put my foot in my mouth. Yeah. But yeah, Deana, I mean, with that hot take earlier, and if you're, I mean, this is no disrespect to a team like Bakersfield, but it makes you wonder, like, some of these other cross-border affiliations. I mean, if you're a fan of Bakersfield, are you, I don't want to say worried, but is that something that, like, is creeping into the back of your brain? Like, is this something, like, I'll be honest, I think a Battle of Alberta in the AHL would be pretty dope. But, like, at the same time, like, I'm not, like, gonna sit here and say that a fan base should lose their team for that to happen. But I would be lying to you if I said that wasn't creeping into the back of my mind as all of this is happening, especially as we're gearing up for the Battle of Alberta in the NHL playoffs right now. So it's just a bunch of moving parts, and I'm always just amazed by the dexterity of the AHL, like, just as a whole.
I cannot wait to watch the Battle of Alberta over a potential 7-game series. That's going to be some great playoff hockey. So actually, we're going to go ahead and switch on over and talk about some playoff hockey here, because we have some division finals matchups that are set. Like always, we're going to start in the Atlantic Division with the number 1 seeded Charlotte Checkers taking on the number 2 Springfield Thunderbirds.
Charlotte, what can you really say? They've been top to bottom one of the best teams in the Atlantic Division. And they come in after taking the series against the Bridgeport Islanders 3-1. First game was 3-2 for Charlotte. Second game, they managed a very close, very high scoring 7-6 win. Bridgeport managed to claw one back in game 3-2. But unfortunately for them, Checkers just too good, shut them out 4-0. That's how they got to the Atlantic Division Finals. On the flip side, the Springfield Thunderbirds, I mean, what is there to really say? They really just walked. They just walked the Penguins in their series, 4-1, 6-2, and then a 7-6, slightly closer. Again, a lot of offense in both series, and that's how we end up with the Atlantic Division Finals.
I think Bridgeport in that one against Charlotte was a bit of a sneaky team. I don't think a lot of people really expected them to make a whole lot of noise, and they ended up way scrappier than a lot of teams expected. I didn't expect them to get past Providence, and then Corey Schneider just did his thing and shut out the Bruins, and then they certainly did not make life easy for a really good Checkers team, and it was. I don't think Bridgeport has anything to hang their heads about. It was just too much happening down there at the Bojangles Coliseum. So I think that was one of the bigger surprises of these early rounds here.
Yeah, Bridgeport honestly surprised me. I mean, I was a little worried to start with both Charlotte and Springfield. Those first couple periods, they looked, and no surprise, a little sluggish. That break that they had, that bye, especially for Charlotte, who went close to 3 weeks without playing any hockey. That was a bit worrisome, but both teams coming out on top. But yeah, Bridgeport, I mean, both Bridgeport and Wilkes-Barre Scranton both had a bit of a barn burner. I mean, Charlotte and Bridgeport in game 2, Springfield and Wilkes-Barre Scranton in game 3, both 7-6. Yeah. Come on.
It's a throwback to the 70s.
Basically. But yeah, both absolute barn burners there. But unfortunately, we had to say goodbye to the likes of Austin Zarnik, who, even though, he didn't get to play in a semifinals round, he still is tied for first in Calder Cup playoff scoring with 10 points. So that's quite impressive. But now we know how we got there. We now need to know how this is going to go. Who are the people that are going to be factoring in? So, guys, what are your keys for the series?
I mean, something's going to have to give, right? I mean, like Springfield's got 17 goals. I mean, it's just like somebody like you're gonna have to make a save or two here, right? But the real highlight to me is as I look at this, the Springfield Thunderbirds scored on 6 out of their 13 power play attempts in their opening round series against Wilkes-Barre Scranton. 6 out of 13. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that is a key right there in and of itself. We talk about special teams in the playoffs over and over again. We're probably tired of talking about it, but it's real, right? I mean, you look on the flip of it, Charlotte, they scored twice on 13 attempts for 15%. Granted, Charlotte, to their credit, has been pretty strong on the penalty kill. So again, something's going to have to break in this series. Both teams have to stay out of the box, and they have to play 5-on-5 hockey. It's going to be advantageous to both sides of the lineup, which is not something we always say. We always say, oh, well, this team needs to stay out of the box. And if the other team can frustrate them, it'll be good to go. This series is not that. It's going to be fascinating.
I like the battle between the pipes. The Cord and Lindgren both are two very great goaltenders, but obviously they've seen also their barn burners of a game where their save percentage got dropped significantly. But both have also proven themselves to be quality AHL starters, and for teams with such high-powered offenses, it'd be pretty nice for their goalies to just suddenly put up a stone wall. Maybe that gets some momentum swing going. And honestly, if one of them can steal a game, who knows? It opens up a lot of possibilities, especially when both sides are so capable of putting pucks in the net.
I think I said this the earlier round involving Springfield, but I love the size of their lineup. I love the types of players that they have because they're just built for playoff hockey. And in the Checkers, I think we've kind of seen them kind of open up the offense all season long. But when you got two great goalies going at it one after the other, it's going to really kind of get to a real grind in this series, I think. And when it happens and you got, a monster like Luke Witkowski or Will Bitten coming at you down on the forecheck and starting to wear some of these defenders down, that's when the mistakes can happen. And I don't know who's, going to be more prone to that, but I think it's going to be that different of who can make those clean exits out of the zone and get the attack going the other way instead of getting hemmed in by the other team's forecheck and, allowing repeated chances on your goalies. Because DeCord and Lindgren are incredible all year long, but, the walls are going to break eventually at one point or another. And it's going to be that one mistake that could actually end up deciding the whole series. So I think whoever is going to have that drive to be out and to kind of and throw the body around and be physical, finish your checks, there can't be any flybys in this series. And I know it's kind of a cliche thing to say about the playoffs, but if you're not out here to throw the other guy through the boards, it's going to be a long, rather short series, I should say.
And I think after that last series, especially considering their lineup too, I think that the gash is kind of wide open for Springfield. You look at their goals for versus goals against in that in the playoffs so far, 17-9 for them. So it was a pretty spaced out series, and I think that Charlotte is. I believe that they went through the ringer in that last series. I think that it was a lot closer than what a lot of people have to say about it. And Jeremy kind of talked about the power play, and that a lot of that's got to come from the penalty killing for Charlotte in this. They were able to stop 90% of it. Their penalty kill did look pretty good through the first bit of the playoffs, but they got to be crisp against this team because we know how offensively capable that they are to be able to get pucks in the back of the net.
Well, for Springfield, in my mind, they're going to be looking towards Matthew Pekka, who has 6 points so far in 3 games played. And then Sananas is doing him one better at 7 points in 3 games. And then, of course, anyone who knows me knows that this is not going to be a surprise, but Zach Dalby with the Checkers in 4 games, he has 5 goals. So, he is a difference maker. He always has been, always will be. And then Max McCormick too. He's got 5 points in 4 games. So those are the 2 players on each team that I'm going to be looking for specifically. But guys, your predictions. This is still a best of 5 round. So who's going to take it?
Give me the T-Birds in 4. I think they're just. I think they mirror the play style of the Blues, and it's their parent club obviously. And if you've seen them, I mean, granted, they kind of looked a little overworked against Colorado the other night, but it's a team that thrives on that playoff style, and they got the big bodies to follow it up. Charlotte's a great team. There's no indicator on them, but it's a mean, nasty lineup they're going up against.
A mean, nasty lineup that scores. It's like playoff hockey, but also everything that everybody says playoff hockey isn't, right? And so for me, I'm with you, Andrew. I've got the T-Birds in 4. I think the Charlotte Checkers will be the defending Calder Cup champions no more.
6-2-0 in the regular season, and I got to give it to them. It's going to go all the way, but it's going to be a pretty lopsided series in that sort of sense. I think that it will be the T-Birds on top.
Okay, I will make it another. I will say T-Birds in 5, like very, very original. But I think it's going to be a great series between 2 teams that are great, and I believe that both of them will be battling it out to the end. I just think that the T-Birds are on a better run of form right now, and they probably have. I feel they've had more momentum heading into this series, and I think that's going to carry them through past the Checkers.
Well, I'm going to politely disagree with all of you. I'm going to say that it is going to go all the way. However, I'm going to take Charlotte. I think Joey Daccord is playing on a completely different level than everybody else right now. If he can maintain that momentum, I think that he can help win at least one, if not more than one game, and help take his team on into the Eastern Conference Finals. But who's going to be facing them? Well, we still obviously don't know that, but the even bigger question is we don't even know who's going to be in the North Division Final yet. We know one of the 2 teams, the Laval Rocket, after it seemed like this series went on forever, a very long series that lasted from May 6th until May 17th against the Syracuse Crunch, where, even the final game on Tuesday night, it had to go into overtime to determine a winner, but Laval took it 3-2 with a very serendipitous final score of 3-2 in Syracuse. But they're still waiting on an opponent for the other half, or for the North Division Final. We are still waiting on a winner to come out of Utica and Rochester, which I don't know if any of us could predict this, but it is going to Game 5. Utica winning 2 games, Rochester winning 2 games. I mean, Utica taking the first one and the fourth one, Rochester taking games 2 and 3. So, yeah, I just want to know, what do you guys think of Laval in their place in the North Division Finals, and who do you think the better matchup's going to be?
It wasn't long ago that the Rocket were icing an ECHL roster because of COVID. That's really impressive for them to even make it this far. Mm-hmm. Just like, oh my goodness, like what a story it is, especially such a tough series against the Crunch. I mean, that's a lot of resiliency in this team, in this group.
I think, just to say, like, I would argue that maybe the 2 best teams in the North toward the end of the season played each other in Laval and Syracuse. Those 2 teams quite simply ended the season as the two best teams in the North, in my opinion. And for Laval to be here facing a potential matchup between, the presumptive number 1 seed in Utica or the number 5 seed in Rochester, I think a matchup against either team benefits them. Like, the Rocket should probably be favored in whatever matchup they get. And I don't know that that's something that we probably would have agreed with a short few months ago, when Utica was going scorched earth on everybody, and Laval looked like they weren't going to make it into the playoffs. And so as you look at this, I mean, like, if the Amerks find a way to get through, I mean, the Amerks haven't won a game outside of overtime in the playoffs to this point. All 4 of their playoff victories have come in extra time. And then Utica, I mean, Utica has shown in instances that they have some weak spots in these playoffs, and they've demonstrated that against Rochester. And I mean, it's hard to pick against Laval in this one. I know we can't really make a pick given that we don't know who they're playing yet, but it's just really hard for me not to favor them in this matchup.
And I got to think about the series too. I mean, you look at the Rochester Utica series, everyone's looking pretty banged up out there, right? They went 6-6 in the regular season, and now they're going all the way in this one. And I guarantee it's going to overtime. And you got to think that walking into Placebell in Laval, the crowd is absolutely electric. You know that you're going to have a tough beat to kind of go up against that Laval team. So if I'm both of them, I'm looking to the light at the end of the tunnel, but I'm also a little worried too.
I would just like to ask, will the real Jack Quinn please stand up?
Right.
Because through these 6 games, 2 assists is just, it's not going to get it done. So if Rochester really is serious about getting past Utica and getting, I mean, granted, the Amerks have had some great contributions from Ristolainen, JJ Peterka, Peyton Krebs, the usual suspects that they're used to getting it done from. But if they got to beat Utica, I mean, he's got to. This is where he's got to show up. And I love the idea of just a young freewheeling team that's really, if you think about it, kind of playing with house money at this point, because 3 weeks ago, I don't think any of us expected Rochester to be here at this point, neck and neck with the number 1 team in the division. Granted, I don't think Utica looks as scary as it did beginning of season, as we've all kind of pointed out, but still, there are no scrubs. And Rochester making it this far with a bunch of, young players just kind of having fun out there. I would love to see them just kind of take the momentum and then ride it into a firecracker of a series with Laval. I'm kind of with you guys on this though, and I think the Rocket, they have the goaltending, they have the veteran experience. I think they come out. I mean, I know it's a little early for predictions, but I think they come out over whoever ends up winning the series. But just for entertainment value, I'm all aboard the Amerks bandwagon for this one.
Yeah, and how fitting would it be too? The Amerks, in order to get into the playoffs, had to beat Utica in their season finale, and they did so emphatically. And so now, with their season once again on the line, both this time, we'll see who comes out on top. I just got chills, like, saying that out loud. Like, it's going to be nuts to watch, and I could not be more excited. But, yeah, these 2 teams get the consolation prize of Laval.
I just want to know if anybody had Arttu Ruotsalainen leading the league in goals and points in the postseason on their bingo card.
I mean, he's just been stupid. I mean, like, watching him play has been absolutely mind-boggling. I think the reason the Americans are winning is because he's done everything that people expected Jack Quinn to do, and then also probably what everybody expected him to do if he were performing at a normal clip. Like, he's like carrying the weight of this team right now in just such an extraordinary way, along with, like Andrew said, Peyton Krebs and JJ Peterka. Sean Malone has also been pretty great, which I think Andrew also said was going to be somebody who needed to be good for them. But it's just been It's been wild to watch, and if he can show up again tomorrow night, like they've got a chance, or tonight, I guess, as folks are listening.
I just found it fascinating just to talk a little bit more about this Utica Rochester series, because a lot of these points will carry over into the next series with the Rocket. But it was fascinating to watch Utica's style of play evolve over the course of this series, where they played almost to Rochester's game to start. It was just a little physical, trying to rely on skill. And then when it came down to game 4, they played such a mental game, mainly led by AJ Greer, who is also their top point getter right now. But they got under the kids' skin. Like they knew, okay, there are a lot of rookies on this team, a lot of young kids on this team. Let's just constantly be in their ear all 60 minutes. We're not going to let them relax. We're not going to let them get settled. We're just going to rattle them every second we can. And wouldn't you know it, that worked. Because Rochester, I mean, they were being shut out well into the third period, if I remember right. And I think it was because Utica was just jabbing in their ear. They took every last little extra shove they could and every extra cross check. It worked. So I would not be surprised if Utica goes, aha, light bulb, and they carry that through the rest of their playoffs this season.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I mean, Belleville did it to the Amerks in the first game, and Rochester was able to figure it out and find a way to battle through it. And we'll see if the resiliency can carry through not only that matchup, but then potential matchup against Laval. It's going to be a lot of fun. The North will continue to be the division of chaos that we've known it and loved it to be all season. And I, for one, wouldn't want it any other way.
All right. Well, of course, we cannot give – well – yeah, unfortunately, we can't really give predictions here. I wanted to try to, do that, but, it's a little difficult whenever we don't have a true matchup. So, and I have a feeling we're going to be spending quite a bit of time talking about our next 2 division finals out in the Western Conference. So let's just go straight into that. So Central Division Finals, we have the number 1 seed Chicago Wolves versus the number 3 seed Milwaukee Admirals. Now, Chicago did have that first round bye. They faced up against the Rockford Ice Hogs in the division semifinals. And I had to laugh this entire series because I remember poor Andrew. He was so concerned and so worried about this exact matchup from the beginning. Well, it ended up being a non-issue as the Wolves swept the Ice Hogs. 3-0, scores of 6-2, 4-1, and 4-1 again. A much closer series was the Manitoba Moose against the Milwaukee Admirals. That one going to 5 games. Milwaukee obviously coming out on top 3-2. The scores of those games, Milwaukee's score will be first on all of these. So 3-2, 2-1, 1-5, 3-7, and then 2-1. So because of those, that gave them both a seat into this Central Division Finals matchup.
Yeah, the first game, the first period of that Chicago-Rockford matchup felt like classic Chicago-Rockford. Chicago came out flying. They peppered the Rockford goalie. They outshot him 11-2, but guess what? They were losing 1-0 because of a mental error at a blue line that let Lucas Reichel, of all the guys, going in on breakaway and scoring in on Alex Lyon, and you're just sitting there going, oh, here we go. But they get one with a minute left in the first period. They get a power play. They score on the power play, and they head into the intermission 2-1, and then just wax Rockford from that point on for the rest of the series, and just totally exercise those demons that had been hanging around them all season. Rockford beat them 8 out of 12 games. I mean, there's a lot of shootouts in there, which is kind of annoying and don't apply in the playoffs, but they didn't even get close to the overtime to have that even be a factor. The closest margin of shots was in game 3. It was 40-30 in favor of Chicago. I mean, they just controlled the play the entire series. It was methodical. It was a work of art if you're a Wolves fan. It was painful if you're a Rockford fan. But I had fun enjoying and covering that beat. I can tell you that much.
And I think looking at the Admirals in their last series, I think that, they built a really strong foundation for what could be the series ahead. I think that there was times when they did keep it really close, and I think that they had the Manitoba team in dire straits. And I think that that was a big part of their game is they kept it close, and a team which they didn't do very well in the regular season. So I'm looking at that and I'm using that as a template. Now I'm going to start looking for a little more things. You want little crisp passes, you want quality shots, and that was a big thing that I seen in Milwaukee's game is they just weren't able to get some quality shots that they might have wanted, and the score could have been a lot different if there was a lot more quality shots. So that's one thing that I'm looking for. And with Chicago, it's keep playing your offensive game. On paper, they have one of the best teams in the league right now, and I think that has to continue into the next round.
For Milwaukee, it starts and ends with their goalies, and I mean Devin Cooley came in the first 3 games and was phenomenal, and then Nashville got eliminated up top, and here's Conor Ingram for you. And I think you could see in the scores of the games that they won, they 2 goals, 1 goal against a Manitoba Moose team that shoots the puck at every opportunity that they can possibly get. And they're gonna try and do their best to try and slow this Chicago team down to kind of play more into their own strengths, but as you kind of alluded to, Zach, I mean, this is a team that's deep, and it's just added more pieces as the season's gone on. I mean, getting Vasily Ponomarev over from Russia once his season was over with, getting Noel Gunler over from Sweden. Just when you think this team can't get any better, and they just keep adding, a couple of young second-round talented draft picks, they just come at you at waves and waves. They don't give you any room to breathe. You can't. They never let you leave your own zone, and we'll see how well Milwaukee can weather the storm. But there's a lot of storm there.
I mean, if there's one goalie that could do it, I'd say it's Conor Ingram. I mean, we saw a sneak peek of it within the series against the Colorado Avalanche, probably the most potent offense in the NHL, honestly. And I have a feeling that he'd much rather see the shots coming from Josh Levo or Jalen Chatfield rather than Cale Makar or Nathan McKinnon. But I mean, that's also not dismissing at any point Alex Lyon, because I mean, what a netminder he is as well. I think it's going to be up to Milwaukee to be able to limit Chicago's high danger opportunities. And Zach kind of alluded to looking for the high quality, and I go a bit further. I just say staying focused. I mean, there was no reason for them to get blown out in those few games other than the mental lapses and just getting in their own heads. I feel that if they can stick to what keeps them successful, grind down, slow the game down so that Chicago's offense doesn't get a chance. I mean, if you give them any space, they'll make you pay. But I feel that if they can grind and slow the game to a grinding pace, and Ingram being Ingram, there's a chance that they can win. But Chicago's just got everything going for them right now.
I would have to second that comment about Chicago having everything go for them. I mean, for players that have played in more than one game for Chicago, they have 7 skaters that are at a point per game or more. Of course, not surprising, top of the list, Andrew Podorowski. Again, Stefan Nason's in third, right in between them, Jack Drury. I mean, just names that we've been talking about all season. Milwaukee, on the other hand, has one person at a point per game or higher, and that's Tommy Novak. He's at a 1.2. He's got 6 points in 5 games. So I mean, between Devin Cooley and Conor Ingram, they're going to have to steal some games like crazy, I think, if they want to emerge out of this and go into the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
I'm trying to like not sleep on Milwaukee too much, right? Like I think about our dialogue all season long that it was almost clear to us that the Central Division Final was going to be Chicago and Manitoba. We talked about how Manitoba was the best team that we didn't spend a lot of time talking about on the show. We talked about just how good of a team they were, and Milwaukee found a way, which is something that at a certain point in the year I would have lost a lot of money on. I would have lost just an absolute ton of money on, and I think through like on paper, it absolutely makes zero sense that this game should go any more than 3 games. Like on paper, that makes sense to me. But I think it's like it goes to. I almost felt. I mean, maybe not that dramatically, but I think most folks on in this circle, I think at least like we felt kind of similarly about the Manitoba Milwaukee series, and somehow, some way, they figured it out. And so I don't know. It's one of those things where goaltending, obviously, as we talk about in the playoffs, is so key. I'm going to be interested to see like what the game plan is for goaltending out of Milwaukee here at the start. I mean, the other goaltender that we're not really talking about, right, is Alex Lyon. I mean, he's been outstanding for Chicago. So it's like, yeah, we can talk about the goaltending for Milwaukee all we want, but man, like they've also got to score. And as Deana referred to, like not exactly like the most high scoring team here so far in the playoffs. They've won games, sure, but like nowhere near to the clip that Chicago's scoring. And so it just feels like it shouldn't go more than 3 games. But with that being said, I'm sure it'll go 5. Like I know it will.
Yeah, I'm trying to help Milwaukee out here, right? I'm not trying to be beat bias or anything. I'm trying and then I looked at their penalty killing in this postseason, and they're at 70%. That's not going to get it done when you're having a power play unit of Andrew Podorowski, Joey Keane, Jack Drury, Stefan Nason, and Josh Levo coming at you. That's just like that's not going to do it. I'm trying to look for more things than just, Devin Cooley or Conor Ingram coming in and stealing the show out, but that's kind of where it begins and ends. And I don't want to say it's not like the only thing that can give Milwaukee, but I mean, Tommy Novak's been a great player for them all season long. He was great for the Wolves last year. I think they kind of got to go in there with a Springfield mindset and kind of get a guy like Mitch McLean involved, who had 0 points in that opening series against Manitoba. But, here's a guy who was really physical with the Wolves all season long. And you got to get in their heads. You got to do something to get this team off their game. I don't know how to do it, but that's why these guys get paid money to play hockey. They got to figure out a way.
I think the biggest thing to look at heading into this series is, and I know like Zach has made this point so many times before about the goals for and the goals against, and looking at that. Chicago, 14 goals for, 4 goals against over 3 games. Milwaukee, 12 for, 16 against in 5 games. I think that's going to say a lot about it. I know what my pick is for this series, but I want to hear from you guys first. Best of 5, Central Division Finals. Who's going to advance on?
I'll give the Admirals the respect of keeping it to 4 games. I don't want to say Chicago's going to blow them out of the water, but I think it's just too much Wolves here for the Ads. I'll take them in 4 games.
I will be disrespectful. I wasn't going to until Deana said what she just said, which was that in 5 games, Milwaukee scored 12 goals, and in 3 games, Chicago scored 14. And that's it's going to be a 3-game series. I've got Chicago with the sweep. There's no way. Oh man. Somebody can clip this and put it on Freezing Cold Takes later, but it just feels like it has to be.
I'll say Chicago in 4. I think Ingram manages to get away with stealing a game, but I don't think that Chicago's going to lose the series, really.
See, I think that not throwing shade, but I think you guys are kind of sleeping on Milwaukee a little bit here. This is the same kind of team that found a way against a really highly skilled Manitoba team that we didn't talk about all year that was better than what they were, right? They were stuck in a central division, and there's a lot of shade when you look behind you because you got a great big Chicago Wolf in front of you. Of course, you're not going to have as much limelight. But that being said, it's going to go to 5 games. It's going to be Chicago.
Zach, I will just say retweet. I mean, over the course of the season series, yes, Chicago had the advantage, 9-4, 0-1, but I think Milwaukee has the capability, despite what I read about the goals, to at least win 1, if not 2 of these. Yeah, I think this is going to go all the way out to 5. And we are going to go ahead and just move right into the last series preview here. And that's going to be in the Pacific Division. Now, this one is a shocker for me. Of course, first seeded Stockton Heat, who we talked about a little bit earlier in the show, against the number 3 seed Colorado Eagles. Now, Stockton getting their spot in this division final by a series sweep over the Bakersfield Condors, 3-1, 3-2, and then 6-4. What a response from Bakersfield in that final game. But unfortunately, too little, too late. And then this is what surprised me. Colorado sweeping the Ontario Reign. This first score, I still can't believe actually happened. 10-1, then 5-4, and then 5-2. Guys, I know we talked about some barn burners earlier on, but not anything as one-sided as that Ontario-Chicago game. Jeez.
Well, I'm pretty sure one of the points we keyed into on that Ontario-Colorado series was who could stop a puck. It wasn't, I mean, you had 2 high-flying offenses, but who could stop them? Well, Ontario proved pretty early on that they weren't stopping anyone, and that was pretty evident, and we saw the end result. It was kind of, I mean, I don't want to award a full-on oof for them, but I mean, it's kind of when you finish second in that division and you don't win a game, your MVP of the league gets 1 point in 3 games. I don't know what happened to the Reign, but they're just going to have to watch this one from the sidelines now.
Colorado has been the perfect team in the playoffs so far. And looking up and down the numbers, obviously they've won all their games so far. They've outscored their opponent by 3 times. For every 1 goal that the opponent gets, they're getting 3. Their power play, 31%. Their penalty kill, 95%. They've only let in 1 goal. I mean, it's hard to kind of look at how good they are. And I mean, I don't even know if I can blame Ontario completely. Sure, they didn't play the game that they wanted. But this team is just too good right now. Too good. I mean, boy, oh boy.
To your point of that 3-1 ratio, they've given up 1 power play goal. They've scored 3 shorthanded. And I think that just goes into the mindset of this team. To even when you're down a man, it's just like, oh well, it's just more space on the ice for us to attack, And it's not just one guy doing it. I mean, it's a full top to bottom effort from the lineup. I mean, yeah, you're going to give the spotlight to a guy like Jason Magna with 6 goals in 5 games, but they have 8 players that have at least 5 points in these 5 games. I mean, they have a guy in Keaton Middleton who scored 2 goals in the first game against Ontario. He scored 2 goals all year. Everything's just lining up for the Eagles here, and I feel like we're talking them up quite a bit here, but let's not forget who they're up against.
The Pacific Division was tight all the way to the end. I mean, every single team that made the playoffs, you could make an argument that they all deserved to be where Stockton and Colorado are right now. And I mean, look, we've done a lot of talking about Colorado, but I mean, they come into the playoffs just red hot. They finished the season 7-3-0, among the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in the division. And everything's clicking. Like mentioned before, you have depth pieces stepping up. You have great goaltending as well. And I mean, both teams. I guess I should be a goalie guy at this point, but I mean, let's talk about the matchup in net. You have Wolf, hands down the best goaltender in the entire AHL this season, against a very, very good young prospect for the Colorado Avalanche in Justus Annunen. Both of them are capable of really locking down offenses, and I mean, it's something that's definitely something to be aware of. That being said, these teams have a history of scoring against each other. Just on March 19th, Stockton beat Colorado 10-3, and that's not all that long ago. And you have Colorado putting up 10 goals on the Ontario Reign, and with full credit to the Reign, because the Reign are a really good team. So I'm digging the potential for high-powered offense, but also some really high-quality hockey from both sides, because both teams have so much talent and they definitely seen a lot of each other in the tightly contested Pacific Division.
All I can say is, when it comes to Colorado, I hyped up Jean-Luc Foudy on last week's podcast. And can I just say thank you to him personally, because he proved me right. And there's something so vindicating whenever you say, hey, we haven't actually talked about this player hardly at all this season. He's one to watch. And then a night or two later, he goes out and gets a game winner. So there you go. You are welcome, Colorado Eagles fans.
Can I tell you what just doesn't make sense to me about Colorado, and it's something that I'm wary for them in this series? In the regular season, the Colorado Eagles had a whopping penalty kill at 76.5% throughout the entire season, and they've stopped all but one of their 24 times they were shorthanded in this playoff. And to me, is that sustainable? And Stockton, I mean, a great team, a pretty, I don't want to say average power play, but that's not what has gotten them to this point. And so maybe it's something that I need not be as worried about as I am, but seeing a team go from 76.5% on the kill in the regular season against competition, and we're talking playing games against the Barracuda, right? I'm that's I don't know how you're out here at 76.5 playing against San Jose, but nevertheless, to 95% in the postseason, is it sustainable? I don't know. I don't know if it is. I hope for the sake of good hockey and for drama it is, but I worry about it for them.
If they had just gone up against a team that was say Grand Rapids and went and put up a 95 spot on them, okay, I get it. Not the best, power play, but still a good effort. They shut down the number 1 power play in the league over 3 games. And you got to figure that's going to carry over, right? I mean, the momentum you'd think maybe Stockton has a different angle. They know how to attack it differently instead of doing whatever Ontario did over those 3 games. But and maybe you'll see it kind of level out where maybe they'll give up a couple chances, but I don't necessarily see the floodgates opening on this Eagles team. I mean, I think Justus Annunen has taken a step up in his game from where he was in the regular season, and I mean it's I don't want to call them Wolves light, but when I covered them over the Henderson series, I was like, this team plays a lot like the Wolves. And then when there is a breakdown, they have a stud in net like Annunen. It's again, I feel like I've talked a lot about the Eagles, and I don't want to seem like I'm leaning one way because, again, we've seen what Stockton has done all season long. We know what Dustin Wolf's capable of. We know what Jacob Pelletier is capable of. And they have the coach of the year behind the bench. It's all I think Colorado got a little more hype, not just beating Ontario, but beating them in the manner they did. So it's it's easy to kind of lean in that way. But when you take a step back, I don't want to say Ontario was a paper tiger, but when you can shut down the Marty Ferks and TJ Tynans, they didn't have the contributions throughout the lineup to really get them over with. And like I said, once that game 1 kind of just blew up on them, they really just didn't have the tools to respond. I don't think you're going to get that kind of, I don't want to say mental weakness, because I feel like that's me beating up on Ontario a little unfairly. But I think if you punch Stockton in the mouth, they're just going to come at you twice as hard. And I think that's going to make it a way more interesting series than it was against the Reign.
All right, guys. In my mind, this is going to be one of the more close series, I think, out of these division finals. But I want to know what you think. What are your predictions?
It's got to go 5 games, right? I think we're all in agreement with that. Eagles are flying right now. I can't pick one. Well, I didn't pick 1 seed in the Atlantic, but I love what this team's doing. I love the confidence that they're playing with right now. Give me the Eagles in 5.
Colorado in 4.
Ooh.
Man, I don't want to big brain this. In my head, I'm like, what's the hottest take you can have? What is the hottest take you can have? And I honestly, I can't come up with one.
You know what? 4 is a pretty well stretch. I think that if you said 4 either way, that's a stretch, in my opinion.
No.
Agreed. I'll go. Oh, man. I just Stockton in 5.
Colorado's got everything going for them, and Stockton's a really good team. I feel really torn to be saying this, but like Icarus flying too close to the sun, maybe the Colorado Eagles will get burned. I say Heat in 5.
That's good. That was really good.
Yeah, quality metaphor there.
I don't know how to follow that up. That was perfect. I'm feeling so just inadequate right now, but Colorado can score, and they've shown us that 30 goals for over their 5 games versus 12 for Stockton. But I think Stockton's got the goaltending to try to stifle that. But I'm going to go Colorado in 4.
I guess the fun game inside of this is just how many game misconducts is Colorado going to pick up in this series?
Oh, God, yeah.
114 penalty minutes in
2.
5 games. 114.
Are you sure they're not
Thanks,
the Wild?
Kiefer Sherwood.
Yeah, no kidding.
And Andreas England.
Yeah, that too. All right. So before we move on, we're actually going to get some more of our regular segments in this show than what we have been the last few weeks. But before we move on, any parting thoughts about the playoffs and these matchups?
If you're not watching, you're missing out.
Yeah.
Like, it's been so good, and it's just going to get even better. You can't look at these 4 matchups and think that this isn't going to be a fun next couple of weeks.
Perfect final thought. But normally we have something a little bit more formal prepared for this oof of the week. You know, I usually try to get a clip and stuff, but can I just say, Ontario Reign, you get it, and you're lucky that we had already awarded our oof of the year, and just move on?
Yeah.
I don't think it was more oof than Hartford's collapse, but it was definitely an oof.
Right. True. But yeah, I mean, I guess good news coming out of all that is TJ Tynan did get named to the IIHF Worlds team for Team USA. So he is off to Finland to go skate in that tournament. So congratulations to him. But yeah, I just say Stockton gets the oof of the week. And I think that's a pretty solid award.
They're pretty lucky that Hartford went down like Rome, because I think either way it would have been totally different. It would have been an oof of the year.
Agreed. All right. Well, we're going to bring back a segment that I personally have dearly missed, because this is where it gets a little spicy. This is where we get some of our laughs, and that is our swipe left or swipe right segment. That's right. It's back. In case you forget the rules, it's super simple. Just like your favorite dating app. If we like the take that someone's sharing, we will swipe right on it. If we don't like it, we swipe left. And because we haven't done this in a few weeks, we all have a super swipe up that we can use if we really, really like it. So again, I like to keep it simple. Andrew, kick us off. What do you have?
Well, I kind of alluded to this as we were talking about the whole chaos in the North, but I absolutely love the idea of Rochester coming out of the North. I mean, what kind of a story that would be with the season they've had, an absolute roller coaster, to just ride this momentum, to take out Utica, to find a way through Laval and to come out of that North bracket would be just, oh man, I would love to see it happen. And I do think that they can do it. There's got to be a lot of stars aligning for them to do it, and I really hope I don't jinx them here, but they're playing loose, they're playing fun, they got house money at this point, you know, they really shouldn't have expected to be here, so why not? And I think a team that plays like that can really be dangerous in these playoffs. So yeah, give me the Admirals coming out of the North.
I think for the Admirals to come out of the North, your star players actually have to score. And I think that's one of the big issues right now for the Admirals. And you know, I think that they'll be lucky if they can get past Utica. And I think that then coming out against the Rocket, who are playing phenomenal hockey right now, I can't see it unless their stars wake up. I can't see it. And for me, I can't do it.
So that's a hot take.
I'm gonna swipe left for pretty much the same reasons as Zach gave. I need to see Jack Quinn be Jack Quinn in order for me to agree, for me to swipe right, and it shouldn't be up to one player, but it is up to one player for me.
Man. This is where the beat bias sucks, right? Like, because like I'm sitting here and I'm like, no, I hear you, Michael. Like, we need to see Jack Quinn, but in the back of my head, I'm like, I've seen Jack Quinn all season. Like, he's done this. Like, I don't know why he's gone ghost, right? Like, but he has. Like, you can't say that he hasn't. And to the same effect, like, does Archie Ruotsalainen come back down to earth? And if he does, this whole thing becomes an absolute bear of a challenge. I'm going to swipe left. I hope I'm wrong. I really like writing about hockey, so I hope I'm wrong. It's a left.
See, I love the idea, I mean, and that's the main premise of the pick, right? That we love the idea of Rochester coming out of the North. I mean, can they beat Laval? That's a totally different, totally different topic. I personally don't know. They have a very close record over this season, and Rochester won in overtime in their final match of the season back. I mean, it was barely a month ago, 4-3 in OT. But I think maybe Jack Quinn might be able to put it together. Arttu Ruotsalainen can stay in the upper stratosphere. And I'm going to swipe right on this one. I love the idea of the chaos, and that'll be a fun series.
It's all about the chaos in the North.
Yeah.
I would be disappointed if it didn't keep it going, right? But my hot take, it's a weird hot take because you could definitely catch myself contradicting myself if you just listened to a little bit before this segment. But I could see a real scenario where there are no number one seeds in the conference finals.
Swipe left, Chicago.
Yeah, I'm going to retweet Michael on that one.
Swipe left, Chicago.
I'm sorry.
I'm having a great time. This is really good.
I'm going to quote tweet and say 3 out of my 4 co-hosts have it right.
Well, you win some, you lose some. I'm losing the thumb.
Maybe you need to link your Spotify.
That might be,
yeah.
Can I just say that might be a record for the quickest we've gotten through a swipe, especially with all 5 of us on the show. And I don't know if I'm proud of that. It feels like winning the ugly dog contest every year, where you're but it's kind of cute though. That's kind of where my take was on that one, and I will respect that. You all are right, because I probably, if one of you would have shown up with that, I probably would have swiped left too. But here we are.
It's okay. You'll have a chance with this one. I say the Laval Rocket can win the Calder Cup. Or will
Swipe left, Chicago.
Swipe left, Chicago.
I'll expand on it, and I'll say that I think that the actual finals are going to be the Western Conference Finals, because I think that whether Milwaukee finds a way, then they're going to. That means that their goalies are playing at a stratospheric level that's going to be on the level of a god. Chicago is Chicago. We've kind of gone about that. And Stockton and Colorado, the talent up and down those two lineups speak for themselves. I just don't see a scenario in which Springfield can beat Stockton, or Laval can take on Chicago or Colorado, or Utica. Okay, maybe they can beat Milwaukee, but I think I can't see anyone. I think the West Finals is the real finals of our playoff here. So
okay,
I think Laval will be in the Calder Cup final. I sincerely believe that. And I think at that point, right, anything can happen. But yeah, I don't know. I agree with Andrew in the sense that the Western Conference feels kind of unbeatable right now. But I mean, we've had takes be wrong on this show before, so I feel comfortable in knowing that I wouldn't be the first to be wrong. But yeah, I would be surprised if I were.
Wow, interesting. So I'll take it a little bit in a different direction, because we talked earlier in the show about Stockton possibly leaving the AHL, which has got to be a bummer going into this series. It's got to be knowing that at the end of this could be it. Nonetheless, I'm a firm believer that if this team were to go north, I think that we should start seeing more and more trends of this, because I think that we're really oversaturating Southern markets. And I mean, in the past few years, all we've seen is just dumping teams in both NHL or ECHL or AHL. It's becoming the new trend, is to just dump teams down south. And I think that the AHL should start looking at sending a couple more teams up north. Saskatoon has always wanted a team. Quebec has been looking for a team. I'm sure Hamilton would want their AHL squad back. And God, stick another one in Alberta and it'll do good. That's kind of where I sit with it.
Yeah, I think just in the interest of like leveling your divisions out a bit, I think we've seen just in the playoff format where you have, all those teams coming out of the Pacific other than your two doormats, like, all respect to the San Diego Gulls, but you had no rights being in the playoffs this year. And, I get the whole format and everything, but I think you're right. It's good. It's good for LA. It's good for Anaheim. It's good for San Jose to have those teams locally. But right, what is Edmonton doing with the team in California? What's Calgary doing with the team in California? Seattle, again, okay, I get it. Have Coachella there, but spreading it out a little bit, I think does better for your parent clubs, and it does better for the league. Right? Who wants a Californian division with 10 teams in it? So, yeah, I'm thinking it kind of the COVID season kind of helped push everyone towards this a little better as they started to realize, hey, maybe it would be in the interest of Vancouver not to have your affiliate 1,000 miles away. So, yeah, I'm going to swipe right on that.
I'm swiping right too. Again, just like the last point Andrew mentioned, I mean, originally I remember the logic behind moving a bunch of teams to California was to reduce travel between the teams in the AHL. But after the pandemic happened, I feel like there's been a shift in the mindset where it's not so much that the travel between AHL teams is bad, but the travel between countries has become so much of an issue. We've seen a lot, like even with the playoffs, the Toronto Maple Leafs, when they were still in the playoffs before their annual first round exit, they were busing down to Buffalo to take a flight to Tampa. You also had the Calgary Flames doing the same, flying into Vancouver, driving down to Seattle, and then hopping on a plane to Texas so that they wouldn't be doing COVID tests. And I think the priorities have shifted where teams are starting to realize the value of having their AHL affiliates much closer to home. They can get the flexibility that they want. They can get the closeness between the management of these clubs, which is so critical, especially when you're developing prospects. I mean, I think it's going to be a swipe right for me.
I'll keep it easy. Swipe right.
Yeah, I agree. Swipe right.
All right. Well, I do want to do just a quick peek into the scoring races because, as we know, a few weeks ago, this all just got reset to 0. But out of the top 5 point getters right now, we have 4 out of the 5 that are still in the playoffs. 1 has bowed out, but it's all spread across 3 teams. So leading with 10 points is Arttu Ruotsalainen from Rochester. Austin Czarnik currently sitting in second technically because he has more assists than goals. But he is with the Bridgeport Islanders, which of course have been eliminated from playoff contention. Third is JJ Peterka, a name that is very familiar to listeners of this podcast, with 9 points. Jason Megna out of Colorado with 8 points. And then his teammate in Kiefer Sherwood also sitting there with 8 points. Megna getting 8 points in 5 games versus Kiefer's in 4. So in terms of goals, again, Arttu Ruotsalainen right there on top. Jason Megna coming in second. AJ Greer out of Utica in third place. Zach Dalby out of Charlotte in fourth. JJ Peterka, once again, very familiar name, coming in fifth. And then when it comes to goals against average for goalies, Alex Line out of Chicago, number 1. Matthew Murray, not that Matthew Murray, the other Matthew Murray out of Texas, in second place. And then Troy Grosenick. I mean, it's kind of odd that the top 2 of the top 3 goalies are out of the playoffs, but Troy Grosenick with Providence in third place. Top with save percentage, Matthew Murray, again with Texas at the top. Joe Hoffer with Springfield in second, and Caden Primo out of Laval in third place. So it's been a while since we have had time for a bonus round, but we have a bonus round. And Jeremy, what do you have for us? I know it's been a while, so this better be good.
It's really simple. It's a simple one. It's a quick one, and it pays
Is it written
off.
on a plate?
It's not this time. There's nothing written on plates this time. It feels like growth, but nevertheless, what we have here is kind of playing homage to Zack's swipe, which kind of I think changed maybe a little bit throughout the course of time, but alluded originally to the California just like oversaturation. And I want to know from you all, in what year did all 5 current California teams join the AHL?
Okay, so Manchester moved after the 2015 Calder Cup. Stockton was already there.
This is the same year I lost St. John's. I know this.
He is so confident. Look, if you're not watching on YouTube, go to YouTube. He's sitting there, arms crossed. He's just, yep. I got
I
it.
get this wrong. I
So
get
do we
this
just
wrong.
do we just give
Oh,
it to
I'd
Zach, or
laugh.
do we have to give our guesses too?
Say that again.
Is it?
Do we just give it to Zach, or do we actually have to guess?
Yeah.
Go ahead and give it. Let's throw Zach a bone here.
They left.
I'll say 2017.
Yeah, 16, 17, I think, was when the CUDA came in, as far as I know. So I'll say 15, 16.
I was going to say 2001. I think it's been a bit.
Zach, you want to give us an answer?
No, 16-17 was their first set of games.
All right. So I have bad news.
You all missed it?
Andrew, what did you say again?
I said 15, 16.
All right. Well, the bad news is that Zach, I think your trauma might have affected your memory.
Oh,
I know. Andrew's right. In 2015, 2016, the Bakersfield
I did it to Michael
Condors-
again. I did
Are
it
you
to
kidding me?
The San Diego Gulls, the San Jose Barracuda, and the Stockton Heat all began play in the AHL, either by being moved or establishing.
I was way off.
Isn't that wild, though? All in the same year.
Just all right. Well, we're just gonna. California is gonna be a thing now.
it was like the great swap of the ECHL and AHL, because a bunch of them kind of, Stockton had a team, and then Worcester lost their team and they got sent down, and Bakersfield came up.
Manchester Monarchs. got
the
swapped into
Norfolk
Montreal.
too, right?
Norfolk Admirals.
Yeah.
Well, sorry again, Michael.
Okay, see,
This is why I don't like these things.
And the thing is like I would have given it, but I was like, well, I'll just say 15, 16. And then...
Michael always gets like Price of Right rolled out of everything.
100%. Speaking as the guy who does it to Michael almost every time he's on the show.
Right?
This is why I'm never on the show.
Y'all can catch Michael again in 3 weeks.
He'll be here for our final of the season,
Of
Yeah.
course.
Oh, don't say that. That just made me sad.
Oh.
What?
The final of the season.
We got a long way to go still.
We
Oh,
still
no.
got 2 more rounds. In the last 2 rounds, well, no, 3. We got a round of 5, then we got 2 rounds of 7. We're gonna be here for a bit.
We gotta
Then
be-
we have end of season, things, and then we're still once a month. It's okay.
Yeah.
We'll never stop.
you can hear my bad
stop,
picks
don't
once
stop.
a month.
Heck
You
yeah.
can hear me
We get a
awkwardly
super
try.
swipe every episode.
You can hear me awkwardly try to transition in between segments, and I struggle to find out what to say.
I think
I
you
love
do.
You usually do a pretty great job. I'm a big fan of your segues. They're a lot better than a couple of other people that I might know that might involve mattresses and stabbing.
But I'm the one that set up the stabbing comment, though. That's the problem.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate your alley-oop to me there.
See, what people don't know is we have a little chat as this is going. And in the chat, we're all just doing different segues of what we think would be. And trust me, hers are a lot better than anything that we've ever written in that chat.
100%.
I mean, just this episode, we had references to Ambien, Stephen A. Smith, and lobbing and knocking things out of parks. So, I mean, that's just this episode. Lots of gems. I should record the chat sometime. That could be some great bonus filler content.
Don't forget the wax. Don't forget the wax period.
Wax. Wax, period. Just waxed. All right.
Oh, man.
But yeah, that's going to be it, guys. We're getting to that point of the show where we're going to have to say that this is it for the Holy Grail for this week. Of course, if you like us, please subscribe to the podcast, like, share, give this podcast a little bit of a rate, and of course, tell all your friends, your family members. But if you really like us and would like to talk to us on a more personal level, of course, you can give us all a follow on Twitter. You can find me over at FPH Monsters.
You can find me at FPH Wolves, or if you like talking about non-playoff hockey, you can find me at FPH Griffins.
Oh, that was tough. I'm on the sidelines, I'm benched, but hey, you give me a shout at FPH Canucks. I'll always respond.
You can check me out at FPH Americans.
And I'm FPH Marlies.
And all of our written content is going to be over at fieldpasshockey.com. Of course, we have some great playoff coverage coming your way, and also coming later on today on Thursday, I have an exclusive sit-down interview with outgoing head coach of the Cleveland Monsters, Mike Eaves. So please feel free to give that a read. He looks back on his 3-year tenure with the Cleveland Monsters, and also gives us some insight into what is next in his 35-plus year hockey career. And then, of course, we have all of Field Pass Hockey's other podcasts inside the SPHL with James Hayes. If you haven't already listened to his season-ending episode where he sits down with members of the SPHL championship team, please do that. It's a great listen. Syracuse Speaks with Alexandra Ackerman. Of course, all about the Syracuse Crunch. Unfortunately eliminated from the playoffs, but she's still going to have some great content coming up. Monsters Musings. We're well into off-season mode here, going monthly, but that's still there with Jacob Forster and, of course, myself. And then the 3 Periods podcast with Matthew Harding. And then just got to give one more plug for the Field Pass Hockey app. If you're looking for a way to stream Charlotte Checkers playoff hockey, that is the place to go. We're going to have all those games for you streaming live on the app. So, guys, that's it. On behalf of all of us here at the Holy Grail, we hope you have an amazing week, and we will see you next Thursday. Bye.
This has been the Holy Grail Podcast. Have a question or a topic suggestion? Hit us up on Twitter or drop us an email. For the latest news across the American Hockey League and the rest of minor league hockey, download the Field Pass Hockey app, now available in the Apple and Android app stores.